All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. We are in Genesis, the book of Genesis, Bereshit. Today we'll be looking at a short chapter, chapter 16. Genesis chapter 16, which is Sarai, his wife. Sarai, his wife. All right, we'll be looking at Genesis chapter 16. We're going to just go ahead and read it. We'll go ahead and read through chapter 16. And then we'll go ahead and get started with talking about it. Let me go ahead and pull it up, put it up on the screen. Genesis 16. Go ahead and read for us. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second here. Okay, go ahead and read for us Genesis 16, starting with the first verse here.
Genesis 16, starting with verse 1, and said, and Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mitzrayim female servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, see, Yahweh has kept me from bearing children. Please go into my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mitzrayim, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. After Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and he went in to Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahweh judge between you and me. And Abram said to Sarai, see, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. And the messenger of Yahweh found her by a spring in the wilderness, a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from, and where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, return to your mistress, and humble yourself under her hand. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, see, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Yishmael, because Yahweh has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. And she called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her, you are the El who sees. For she said, even here have I seen after him who sees me. That is why the well was called Be'er Lahai Roi, See, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Yishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Yishmael to Abram.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. All right, let us go back over here. Back to the top here. We've got a few things we want to talk about. If we go back up here, let's see here. All right, so if we go back over to looking at these first few verses here, we see that, let's see here. Okay, so when we look at verse 1, we see where it says Sarai here, Avram's wife, she was in a state of barrenness, right? We know that she is barren. It says it here. If we go back to, let's see, all the way back to 11:30, we see it again, right? She was barren. She had no child.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see over here, it's interesting. Where did we see that the child, the seed, was supposed to come from Sarai? We know that it's supposed to come from Avram. He said to him in the last chapter, when the covenant is pronounced, that his seed will be great. But we see over here that Sarai, his wife, had bore him no children. And so are we supposed to think that she is the one that the seed is supposed to be going through? Or, are we supposed to just only just think about Avram and his, part in the situation over here? When we look at this from the perspective of Sarai, his wife, it seems at this point his only wife, at least she is concerned, probably not only because of the fact that she is in this barren state, but also you have now this added pressure that must exist now that he has received this covenant. Avram has received this covenant from the Most High that his seed will be great. And then she's living all these years with her husband, childless. And so, again, however it is that, I'm a man, so it's not, I can't understand these things necessarily. And I'm a man that's outside of the I'm outside of this culture.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a culture where, it's different from, the way that it was in those days and times. It was everything. It was everything for the wife to provide, the children for her husband. And so for her to be living here in this place, childless, this was pretty serious. And so then we add this other situation where when we look at verse 2, where it says, Yahweh has kept me from bearing children. Some versions here. Let's look at this here. Verse 2. The King James says that Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. That word there is atsar, to enclose. To enclose, if you're enclosing something, you have it kind of enveloped inside of something. So her ability to bear children has been covered, enclosed, to hold back, right? But it's the Most High, though. The Most High is doing it, right? This is her thought. This is what she said, right? She says, now behold, Yahweh has prevented me from bearing children. He has restrained me. He has enclosed my ability. He's holding it back, right? So it's interesting that at that point we see that she in fact is giving the credit to the Almighty in terms of him being the one who's preventing life from manifesting in her. This really is a thought, right? That is had by the people at the time, right? When you think about life in general, life in fact comes from the Most High. If we look, let's see here. Let's look at 1 Samuel 2:6, right? Oh, this is interesting because we're dealing with another person who kind of has the same thoughts. I'm in the same situation. Read verse 6 is what we want.
6. Yahweh puts to death and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and raises up.
Yahweh makes alive. He makes dead. He puts things to death. Things die because of the Most High, the creator and sustainer of all things. If you die, then he has ceased from sustaining you, right? And he makes alive. Look at Acts. Acts 17. People have many things to say about the Most High and his life-sustaining abilities. Read verse 25.
25. Nor is he served with men.
Just go up 20. Read 24.
It says Yahweh who Yahweh who made the world and all that is in it, this one being master of heaven and earth, does not dwell in dwellings made with hands, nor is he served with men's hands as if needing any, himself giving to all life and breath and all else.
Okay, very good. So life comes from the Most High. And so when we look at Sarai and her situation, having this understanding that, in fact, the Most High Yah is the giver of life, and then for whatever reason, she is not able to have life be produced in her, is causing her to feel away, obviously. One last verse here, 30, Deuteronomy 32 and 39.
See now that I am he, and there is no Elohim besides me. I put to death and I make alive. I have wounded and I heal, and from my hand no one delivers.
Okay, very good. I put to death and I make alive. Right? She knew this because she says over here that Yahweh has prevented me from bearing. Knowing all of that, knowing that the Most High is the one who brings life, knowing that the Most High had given Avram this, he made this covenant with her husband. Yeah. And we see over here that, at this point, Sarai is dealing with, what's going on. She then goes to her husband with a solution. It's interesting when we look at this solution because it seems that it's I guess when you look at it closely, it seems out of place because of the fact that we see that she has a particular understanding as to where life comes from. But it's almost as if she takes it out of the Most High's hands and puts it into the hands of Avram and someone else, her female servant. Right? She has an understanding. He, Yahweh, has kept me from bearing children. If he kept you from bearing children, then are you supposed to have children right now? Whether they come from you or whether it's someone else that's building your house? Is the Most High telling her that she needs to adopt someone else's child? I don't know that the Most High is in the decision that she's making. She doesn't say that. This is what she's saying, right? She says to Avram, the Most High kept me. Please go into my female servant. It's almost as if we have this is interesting dynamic because it's almost as if she's saying, I don't like what the Most High is doing, so I had this plan that will do. So let's look over here at this situation here. We have Hagar. We have Hagar, who it's interesting that she is Egyptian. Her name is uncertain if it is in fact. It's interesting. Her name is uncertain if it is in fact Hebrew or of foreign derivation. That's what you find when you look at the name here, Hagar. Let's look at this. We know that she's an Egyptian person. It's thought that potentially she was part of the offerings after Avram came out of Egypt. Potentially, she was actually given to Sarai. She literally was the property of Sarai. She was her maiden. So it's likely that whenever Sarai was over there in Egypt, whenever she was given away by her husband temporarily, that when they left, she came out of there with her maidens, at least one. Maybe there were more. I don't know. Maybe when she came out of there. And so if we look at Hagar, we know that she's Egyptian, but her name, Hagar, is not really Egyptian. Let's see here. If we look over here, let's see here. Let's look at BDB. BDB probably gives us the best flight.
Huh.
Her name literally means flight.
Flight. That's interesting.
But again, when you look at the Strongs, there's kind of it says of uncertain, perhaps foreign derivation. Hagar gives you the name, and then it gives you this idea here. When you look at it, actually, this is just some conjecture, I guess. When you look at it, it looks like the stranger, right? The foreigner, Hagar, right? Hagar. So it looks like. We know that these words aren't always what they look like, but she is in fact a foreigner. She is in fact a stranger. That's told to us when we look, and so whether her name is the stranger, which could also give you the idea of flight, because it's not talking about flying like flying in the air. It's talking about the idea of, like fleeing, like if you take flight, like if you go somewhere, right? Which you also, could in fact be a stranger if all you do is take flight, right? You're a stranger places. So when you look at Hagar, you could find these different situations, but when we look over at this maiden, it's interesting that we're able to learn some things about the relationship here that exists between Sarai and Hagar. Namely, when you look in the second verse over here, it's interesting that when we see Sarai, when she speaks to Avram, where she says, "Go into my female servant," right? And so it's not as if necessarily that, this is the servant of Avram. Right, this is Sarai's, even though Sarai is the wife of, she's the wife of Avram, but she has her things, like she has her possessions, right? She has things that belong to her. Sometimes, when my wife speaks about things, she speaks about it kind of in the plural sense, the plural possessive sense, I should say, like our, right? And so when we were thinking about something that's ours, she might say, this is our house. This is our table. This is our female servant, right? But here, Sarai, she says, go into my female servant, which is interesting because, when we think about this, um, I think it's interesting to see that dynamic as we move forward to understand the way that they relate, Sarai and Hagar, to one another. But it seems as if when we look over here that uh, Hagar, in fact, is the servant of uh, Sarai. And so when we look over here and we see, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Some things going on with my computer. All right. As we look over here, we see that this thing continues as we look and see that, first of all, let's see here. When we look at verse 3, that now you have a situation because, of course, Avram listened to his wife. He took Hagar to be his wife, right? And so again, we look at this word here in verse 3, because he has a wife, Sarai, and then he takes the female servant, the Mitzrayim, the Egyptian, that was given to her for the purpose of being a wife to Avram. I'm going to look at this word here as we seek to try to understand the uh, nature of the relationship between Sarai and Hagar, to be his Isha, okay, which is woman, but it could be wife, woman, female, it could be adulteress, right? You have all of these different word uses for Isha, but again, Avram has an Isha. Hagar doesn't take the place of Sarai, but she also doesn't relinquish her prior position of maiden, a female servant. She gains a title of wife to Avram, but at the same time, she doesn't cease from being the servant of Sarai. And so it's interesting that when we see this, because when we look at, we can know that because when we look at verse 4, read verse 4 again.
And he went into Hagar, and she conceived, And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes.
Her mistress. Okay, so Sarai was still the mistress of Hagar at this time, after she had already become the wife of Avram. Okay, so she's mistress of Hagar. So let's look at what this is here. And by the way, this is 10 years now, right? He gave her to be the wife after Avram had dwelt 10 years in the land. They was there 10 years and then he gave it to her. Okay. Not like he was trying for 10 years with Hagar. But a time did go by where there was conception, and then there also was this despising of the mistress by the servant Hagar. So let's look at this real quick. Let's look at verse 4, because at this point she's wife, Hagar is, which by the way could in fact be concubine. It could be surrogate mother. All of these things. Isha can be all of these things, right? Main wife, secondary wife. It could be all of these things. Isha can be, right? But I want to look at this because the relationship between Sarai and Hagar never changes, because she was mistress before and she's mistress still. What's this here? Lady, mistress. It's the feminine of Gebir, which is master, Lord, right? So she is the lordess of Hagar still. She's still over. I just want to say not just because Sarah is the first wife. I just want to say that. Their relationship is not defined based on, which one was first or second. I don't think. I think that they had a prior relationship, and that relationship always was. It never changed. And so just because she was the first wife, it didn't make her like the head wife. She always was. What they got a name for the first wife? The people?
Just the first one.
Huh?
Just the first one.
What about the second one? The second one,
they can
call the second one?
If they decide they want to replace the status of the...
Wait, but there's a status though?
Yeah. If they want to replace the status, then they might demote the first wife.
I'm saying, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? I know, but what I'm saying is that
ancient. I don't know if that's ancient.
What I'm saying is that this idea of first wife status, second wife status.
Yeah.
I don't know that you're able to go to this and see that.
It's not there.
Because the reason why you have any type of status here is because you had Sarai, who was the wife, and then you had Hagar, who was the servant who never stopped being the servant. She just got another thing added to. She got another thing added to her resume, which was Isha of Avram, which, by the way, could have only been for the purposes, as far as what we see, is for the purposes of childbearing, which would be kind of on the same status as concubine at this point. Maybe even a different status, because it wasn't just for recreational purposes. I don't know what else to say, but it was specific. It was specific for childbearing, right? To build this house is what she said. The way that she said it, to build her up, right? But the thing that I wanted to pay attention to was the fact that their relationship never changed. She still was mistress over Hagar. So how do we get to this place of verse 4 where it says that it says her mistress was despised in her eyes. Mistress is Sarai, her is Hagar. So Hagar is despising Sarah after she became with child. So she started to feel herself then. She looked at Sarai with contempt. Now, after she conceived, it says, let me see here. It says that her mistress was despised in her eyes. Let's look at this here. Despised. Kalal, to make light, curse. This is the word that we see translated as curse. It's probably translated as curse more times than anything in the, let me see.
What's the word?
Kalal. Curse. Right? It's mostly used as this word here to mean curse. And so in the eyes of Hagar, Sarai was a curse in her eyes. She started to feel a way about herself because of the fact that now she had something that her mistress didn't have. At this point, it seemed like couldn't have, right? So she probably started acting funny then, I would think. Hagar did. But she didn't have the right to do it, though. But even though she was wife, she still was a slave, though. She still was this bondwoman, right? She still was subservient to Sarai. And so she got this status that was kind of given to her. It was given to her by Sarai, right? And she took it too far.
Yeah.
She took it too far, obviously, right? But again, I think that, when we look at this, which I never really thought about it to this extent before, but when you look at this situation, it's interesting that we're able to see this whole thing. We're able to see kind of what's going on over here, because when we look at the behavior of Hagar, it's not as if Sarai is just mad because, or jealous or whatever, right? Necessarily. But we see what's going on with Hagar, which would kind of make room for Sarai to feel a certain way because of the way that she is now dealing with herself. Because again, it's talking about the way that Hagar is looking toward Sarai. She probably had all of these thoughts in her mind, whatever, she knew what she was getting herself into. She just wants to have a child given to her. But now you have Hagar, which is interesting, because when we think about the way that sometimes Hagar and Sarai are juxtaposed to one another, with one actually being the one of promise, which is the one which is connected to the spiritual promise, right? Sarah, right? And then Hagar, the bond servant, who is not, right? And so you kind of have this picture of the thing that's giving you the carnal picture, carnality, what we are able to do with our own strength, right? And then the miraculous, the spiritual Sarah, right? For a child to come through Sarah at this point is miraculous. At this point, it's nothing but the Most High, performing miracles, right? Because she's lived so long and tried so many times to conceive when she wasn't able to, and so for her to do so, it's spiritual, right? It's a miracle, right? This is the Most High moving and working, spiritual. Mm-hmm. But Hagar, it's just normal, regular. So when we look at what Sarai has done at this point, she don't trust in the spiritual. She don't trust in the spiritual. She just wants to just trust in the natural. The Most High is not able to do this spiritual. He's not able to perform this miracle. So let's just revert back to the physical, because we can trust in the physical. It's easy. This is normal, right? This is young, vigorous Hagar. I don't know how young she is, but she's obviously childbearing. It was natural for her to say, "I can't do it." Hagar probably could, because she's fertile, right? But again, when we look at the two kind of related to one another, again, we have the spiritual, where there's this unknown, it's this unseen. The Most High said he's going to do it, but I don't know how he could possibly do that. And then you have this other thing where it's more obvious. It's more like, that should be easy kind of a thing. Like, I can see exactly how that would work. I can't see how this would work. And so you're able to see kind of, how these two relate to one another in terms of looking at Sarai, the spiritual, and Hagar, the carnal, right? The spiritual thing is unknown, right? You can't see how it works. You don't understand it. You don't have, and then you have, not always even a reason why. And the carnal, you're able to see every step of the way. You're able to see in the carnal, because it's just physical, it's carnal, it's there, it's tangible. And so when we look at the actions of Sarai over here, we see doubt. We're able to see a picture of doubt. We're able to see a picture of faithlessness. We're able to see the fact that she's able, when she looks at what's physically going on, and the absence of any potential for the promise to be fulfilled, she steps into physical action. Right? What she should have did is went to the Most High and said, should I be doing this? Is this what I should do? But you can't just only look at the actions of Sarai, because she goes to her husband and he says, yeah, okay, let's do that. That'll work. So it's not as if we're able to just look at her and say, well, she was lacking in faith, but we're able to look at both parties, we're able to look at both parties and see the doubt, the faithlessness in the Most High, and and what they're putting their faith in is the natural.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here what we see. Also, perhaps because of the promise in 15:4, Sarai is not mentioned, but she believes the promise may not be through her. Yes, that's what I was saying. She's not mentioned. She isn't mentioned. However, I think that even though she wasn't mentioned, I think that she is the implied vessel. I don't know what else to say besides vessel. She's the implied vessel as the only option at the time. She's the wife, right? There's no one else that it could be. If somebody right now says that I was going to have a child, that only means that Tirsa's gonna have a child because she's my wife, right? It's just the logical conclusion that you will come to. And so I think that the fact that when we see the way in which Sarai even comes to these conclusions, especially in verse 2, when she even says that Yahweh has prevented me, the next thing that she says is her going through the back door now. Yahweh's prevented me. He hasn't allowed me to do it. And so now I got to find some other way to do it.
Yep.
That's what happened, right? And so, this is why I'm saying that when we look at this, we see this picture of doubt. We see Avram and Sarai operating in these areas that don't include faith, right? Faith would be he hasn't done it yet, but he will do it, right? Faith would be up until this point he has prevented me from doing it, so now might not be the time, but I know that it's going to be later, right? But doubt looks like this. He ain't did it yet, so I got to step into action. That's what happened, right? Most High didn't do it. I know he's the one that brings life. He didn't do it yet, so I got to step into action. Right. And so again, since we don't see neither one, Sarai or Avram, since we don't see Avram or Sarai consulting the Most High, we can see that he's not in this this equation over here. No, yes, this is correct. Yes, this is surrogacy. This is what they did. Like this, the idea of them doing that just as an idea is totally normal. The thing that changes everything is the fact that the Most High talks about that we have this covenant thing building, and the thing that the Most High is dealing with when he's doing it is just only Avram and his wife at that time. And I think that there's an unspoken connection to Sarai up until this point. He's gonna later, we have more information, but I'm saying up till now, in the text, her involvement in the situation is implied. But even with the idea of surrogacy, which is a common idea, I'm saying, for one, knowing that what it is that they're trying to bring about is a promise given to them by the Most High, I would say that first thing they should have did was consult with the Most High, because we don't see that in the verses here. But the other thing is that we don't understand necessarily the character of Hagar at this point. And we're able to see, interestingly enough, she got some things about her because of the fact that
Sarah got something about her.
I don't know that. I don't know if she does. I mean, she's doubtful. We could see that she's doubtful, but I'm saying that Sarai's issue with Hagar is warranted because Hagar never stopped being a maiden. She never stopped being a bond servant, a slave of Hagar. I mean, of Sarai. And so even though she was a wife, she never had the ability to look at or treat her mistress any kind of way other than what she always, her status never changed in that regard.
Yeah.
And so it's not like she elevated above servanthood because she became a wife. And so I'm saying she got whatever she deserved based on that. She got outside of her, like she stepped out of line. Hagar did. Because of this extra status that she got. And so I'm saying that Sarai, whatever it was that she wanted, and again, I'm not saying because of this whole first wife thing, I'm saying because of the fact that she had the nature of their relationship never changed. She was always the mistress, and Hagar was always the servant. It just so happened that now she had this extra classification that never raised her up above Sarai. And I think that in the text, I think it adds to what I'm saying, when we look back. So let's keep on going down here. Let's deal with verse, let's look at verse 5 here. Okay, just read verse 5 again.
Verse 5 says, and Sarai said to Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahweh judge between you and me.
Okay, this is interesting. It's interesting when we look at the words that are being spoken over here, because now Hagar, she done caused problems between Avram and Sarai. Okay, because of what she's doing. Sarai acknowledges that she made a mistake. My wrong be upon you, she said. My bad. I messed up. but that the consequences of my mistake be on you, she said. Right? Avram was supposed to say, let's wait on the Most High. Let's wait on the Most High. Sarai, she comes along, she understands that the Most High has made this covenant with you. He made this promise. He said what he was going to do. He's not doing it the way I see that he should be doing it. Let's do this instead. Avram was supposed to say, "No, we gotta wait. We gotta wait." And so the consequences of what Sarai put into motion and Avram allowed to continue, she says, the consequences, let them be on you. I made a mistake, but you let it ride. Because now she's sitting up here acting like she's better than me, and I'm better. You ain't better than me. I'm better than you. Let the Most High be the judge. Now let the Most High say what we supposed to do. I'm saying Sarai and Avram. This is what they got to deal with. And then so in verse 6 further verifies that the status of Hagar never changes. Read verse 6.
And Abram said to Sarai, see, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence.
Okay, so we see over here, she's called wife. She was given to Avram for the purposes of being his Isha. To whatever degree is given to us to have a baby. She's a surrogate mother. That's the purposes of her, right? But again, Avram is saying, Hagar, she caused all this problem. Sarai's like, look at this thing that I did. It was a bad idea. It's not working out. I never should have did it. Now you guys sit up here and deal with the consequences of what you let happen. Right? And then so Avram says, this is your servant. Don't
even bring me in.
This is your servant. I don't know if he's saying it all like that. I'm saying that he's saying this is still your servant. You could do what you want to do with her. And it's cool. Because it's your servant, right? It's interesting that he, again, is not saying our. He's saying it's yours. This is your female servant. She's in your hands. You could do whatever you feel like doing to her. And I feel like at this point, Sarai now treats her harshly.
Oh, you don't think she treated her harshly until this one?
No. It don't say it. It says that Hagar despised Sarai. So Hagar had a certain way about her that was negative towards Sarai. But we don't never see any negativity from Sarai towards Hagar until here. After Avram reminds her of the status that she obviously forgot, probably based on the actions of Hagar. She obviously forgot where her place was. And then Avram had to bring it back. Like, wait a second. This is your servant. You could do what you want to do with her. Why you sitting up here letting her look at you, giving you the side eye? Don't let her give you the side eye. You're the mistress. You're the masteress. Then now Sarai stopped playing these little games. She probably was being nice to her. She probably was being nice to her all the time. And then, Hagar was probably acting up. And then she was probably just being nice. It's like, just anything for my master, anything for my Lord. But then now, when she gets this revelation from Abraham, then we see she tried treating her bad. And then we see that she leaves. She now she leaves because he starts treating her. She's getting treated harshly. So this is why I'm saying why we see kind of this progression piece happening, because it seems like Hagar did what she wanted to do until there was some pushback, right? At the time when the pushback happens, then now she leaves. Okay? This is what we see. So this is why I'm saying that it wasn't like she was acting funny. She was acting funny because of what Sarai was doing. Sarai was letting things just go on, and Hagar was the one who was out of line. And then so once we see Avram put his foot down and say, I don't know if he put his foot down, but he brings some clarity to the situation. Her status never changed. She's still the female servant. You're still the mistress. Now Sarai, it says, started to treat her harshly. Let's see what this word even means. Verse 6. Dealt hardly. Oh, hold on a second. I gotta get my picture out of the way so I can click on it. Here it is. Allow. Oh, we know what this is. Looking down, browbeating, depress, afflict, chasten, deal hardly, right? All of these things that are done to her. And then she's like, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. Okay? And so it's interesting what happens, though. It's interesting what happens when she leaves. We see she leaves, and then the messenger of Yahweh finds her, right? An angel, right? The messenger of Yahweh finds her, by the way, comforts her, right? She says up here, I'm fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress, right? But look, read verse 9.
Verse 9, and the messenger of Yahweh said to her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand.
She said, know your role. She said, the messenger says, you go back. I don't care nothing about. He didn't say, I'll talk to her. I'll get her to be nice to you. He didn't say that. He said, go back to your mistress. Go back to your master and humble yourself under her hand. He didn't say nothing about what Sarai was doing. Hagar said exactly what she was doing. I'm fleeing from the presence of my master. Because again, mistress is just the feminine of master. I'm fleeing from my Lord. And the angel Yahweh said, go back to your Lord and humble yourself under her hand.
You mean he didn't tell her it was going to be okay? Oh,
he didn't do none of that. He didn't do none of that. I know how you feel. He didn't say, I know how you feel. It's going to be okay. He said, go back. Know your role, he said. That's what he might as well said. Go back and get back in line. That's what he said. Humble yourself under her hand.
That sound like he was giving some correction.
I guess, right?
But Sarah, she should have did something better.
Should she have?
She says that she afflicted her.
But when though? When did she do it?
After Hagar did what she did.
After Hagar did what she did. I'm saying that she never had no right to do that to begin with.
She had a job.
So you think
she had work?
Employee.
You think that?
Yes. Go ahead.
So you think that Hagar started the snowball?
I think that that's what the text gives us. The text gives us that.
It does. Because
it says she conceived.
She did it until afterwards.
She conceived, and then she started looking at Sarah funny. Yeah, she started giving her the side eye. Because now I got some baby. Now I got some baby. and then now we have a problem, right? And so the things that she was doing, caused Sarai to feel a certain kind of way. She's the one, and then so now she got to go to her husband and say, look, what's going on over here? And then Avram got to say, wait a second, this is your servant. You gonna let your servant sit up here and have you feeling this way or that way? You tell her what's up. And then she did that. There was pushback against whatever Hagar was doing, and now she got a problem.
So even before the baby was even born, there was issue. Because it's just sad. I don't know why Sarah thought that was a good idea. I honestly feel like it may have been like the parable of the talents, like she felt like she had resources that could be tapped into in order to
with Hagar.
With Hagar.
But I think one of the lessons that we learn, among other things, when we look at this, is that again, the idea, there's nothing wrong with the idea. First of all, because this is something that they did, when someone can't have a child, then they have these situations where, okay, well, you can have a child this way. But I think the problem in this situation, the problem is the way that they was relating to one another, where she forgot what she was supposed to be doing. Hagar did. She forgot her place in the situation, which brought about now these problems, right? And so there's that part of it, but the other part is the fact that, like I said, that when the Most High said what he said, it was just dealing with the old man and the old lady, right? It was just dealing with Avram and and Sarai. And so the thing that the Most High promised to Avram at this point, without explicitly saying it up until this point, is including Sarai. And so if they were going to go outside of that, the first thing that they should have did was consult the Most High, because he's the one that said he was going to do it in the first place. They were supposed to say, Avram, when Sarai comes with this other way, he's supposed to say, well, let me see what it is that the Most High will have for me to do. This is the way that he wants for me to do. But that's not what happened. They stay right in the carnal. Mm-hmm. They stay right in the physical. They stay right in the quote unquote logical. She can't have a baby. Let me get this young vivacious one, Hagar.
Tender young thing.
Let me get this tenderoni over here and have a baby with her then. She all strong, carrying water back and forth from the from the well. Let me go over and be with her then. Instead of going to the Most High and saying, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And so now they have all of these issues and things, right?
Mhm.
But all of these things could have been prevented if the Most High is obviously teaching them about waiting on him.
Mhm.
He's obviously teaching them about waiting on him, which they got tired. They got tired of doing it. They got tired of waiting. Oh man, the giver of life ain't doing it through me. Let me see if he could do it through them. Let's see here. Hagar may have thought she should have a higher status with Avram than Sarai because she could see for him. That's why she despised. Well, I would say that she obviously felt like her ability to conceive moves her up in her mind. That's what happened, and that's why she had these thoughts, which it seems manifested themselves in their relationship. But what she needed to be reminded was what Avram told Sarai and what the messenger told Hagar, that you are a servant. Be obedient to your master. Know your role. And so I'm saying that by the time she leaves and gets visited by the messenger of Yahweh, it's interesting that the thing that he tells her to do is the problem that caused her to leave in the first place. It was her inability to stay grounded despite that particular situation, which was her fertility versus the infertility of her mistress. And so again, I'm saying that when we look at this, we're able to see that the thing that's missing from in both Avram and Sarai at this point is, they're having faith issues. They're having faith issues over here. Avram, who, again, we saw before when he had faith issues, probably when they even got Hagar when they was down in Egypt. But these things are continuing because now the thing that the Most High promised is not coming to pass in the time that I guess he was thinking was appropriate. And so now he's making these other moves to kind of move along these things here. And so again, when we go back over to, and then when we go back to Hagar and when she goes out, it's interesting that we see, she is comforted. She is comforted after. I think she's comforted after what the angel. The first thing he says is, you need to get your situation back in order. That's your mistress. Return to her. Humble yourself. Then after we say that, he sees, the next thing is, I'm going to increase your seed greatly, 2 numbers to be counted, right? Which is good. That's a plus for her, right? That's that's good.
It's more than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more than nothing.
And he the child is named, right? From the Most High, the child is gonna come is gonna be Yishmael.
guys heard.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Ishmael. Oh, not that one. Hold on a second. Which, let's see, is a combination of to hear. Oh, so there's a way of saying to hear, right? To hear Shema, right? And so when we see over here that we have this visitation from the angel of the Most High. I think that is the interesting part of all of this is the fact that it helps us to understand what was going on with Hagar and Sarai, is that, you know, she was stepping out of line, right? And the first thing that I said back to her is, get back in line. Go back over there. Do what you're supposed to be doing. And so they have that interaction, and we see at this point, there's this little prophetic utterances that we see in 12, verse 12. He is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him.
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, it kind of does. Right? But I think what she has to understand, Hagar, is that whatever it was that was happening in her, that wasn't what the Most High was talking about. This seed's he's going to be great. He's going to have many things that go good for him, but he's not the answer to the promise. He's not it. And so again, when we look at all of that, I think the main situation over there that we look at is the idea, and we kind of talked about this some on last week, is dealing with faith and, this unknown thing. The Most High, is spirit. And when we deal with him and we deal with the things of the Most High, these things are not always things that are visible straight away. And so even though you can't see how he's going to do a thing, he said he's going to do a thing. We have to be able to trust in the Most High to do what he said he's going to do outside of our physical understanding of things. Because they obviously put something into action that didn't have anything to do with what the Most High had already said.
I think it complicated things.
Well, it obviously did. It obviously brought another dynamic that the Most High, he wasn't talking about that.
Yeah, and it makes a line of succession issue. It makes a lot of different issues.
Well, not necessarily, because when you think about it, again, the Most High, when he said what he said, he has a promised seed. And so when we get to the point when the actual promised seed comes forth, it's stated who his firstborn is. We didn't talk about that yet, but and so it's interesting how when we have this situation where this whole thing, when you think about it from a physical standpoint, this complicates things. But in the eyes of the Most
In the
High,
eyes of the Most High. He already had it established.
he already had it established before it even happened. But I'm saying when it comes to pass, it's like the promised seed still being that seed of promise. There's no confusion as to who's who, even though technically speaking, Ishmael came first. But the Most High had a plan, and they stepped outside of the plan. And so, yes, from a physical standpoint, it might seem like there's complications involved, but from a spiritual standpoint, the only one that matters, there's no issues over there.
The interesting thing is that these plans that man make outside of the plans of the Most High, it leads to complications further down the line. And Ishmael, what's the saying? Psalms, his descendants were a part of the Confederate against his own brother.
Well, I just know that when I talk to Muslims that attach them, or when I was in college, at least that's the only time I really was around anyone like that. But they always said that Ishmael came before Isaac, Yitzhak. So the one that comes first is the oldest and the most ancient. So that's why their religion is more ancient than our religion.
Which is
that was the reasoning they told me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what they say. But we have to go with what the Most High said, which supersedes our logical reality. But it's interesting, again, thinking about what it said in verse 5, where Sarai says that Avram, my wrong be upon you. The extent of what that means when she says, my wrong be upon you.
That's to this day.
To this day. Right? So there's consequences that go with the decision that Avram made. I'm saying Avram because, it was the idea of Sarai, but he said, okay, let's do it. And so the consequences of his actions that he agreed to, that he allowed to happen, are things that will always be. And so it's interesting when we think about that as an idea, the Most High, when he has a plan for the life of his people. And then we at some point take a detour. We could get back on the road. But while you was over there on that detour, whatever happened over there, it don't just disappear. It don't just disappear. You have to deal with the way in which you've gone forever. And so, all of this could have been avoided if they would have consulted with the Most High, which they didn't do. We don't see them doing it, right? We don't see that part. I don't believe that it happened, right? And so, if we're keeping score, Avram, he's losing. He's in the red over here. He's making some decisions that aren't going along with the will of the Most High, and he's bringing these issues upon himself that he's going to end up having to deal with down the road. Still gonna be blessings. It don't take away from the promise, but it's consequences. The wrong of Sarai is real.
And even the fact that her wrong is upon him is real.
Mm-hmm.
Because when things happen in your family, who's going to get the blame if things go wrong?
Yeah, it's not her fault. At the end of the day, it's not even her fault because the bottom line is with Avram. She came up with this idea, and he said, "Let's do that." Okay. And so when that happened, the weight's on him. And so she said, well, she said it right. My wrong be upon you. The consequences of this whole thing at the end of the day is on you. And that's what happened. And again, that's what we have to deal with. We have to be sure to have the Most High be included in our situations and not be out here moving according to our physical, quote unquote, logical understanding, because that's what Avram did. And we're gonna see what things come about as a result of that. What's it say here? It was a lesson for Avram and Sarai to lean on Yah. Absolutely. Even the blessing that Hagar seed receives also is because of Yah's favor towards Avram. It's like a residual effect. He's he really becomes the enemy of his brother, but he's still blessed though, right? Because of his connection to his father. Okay. All right, let's go over. I wanted to kind of end over in Isaiah. Let's look over in Isaiah. Let me pull it up here. Isaiah. Let's see here. Read Isaiah Yeshayahu 54. Oh, just read the first verse, dude. Hold on.
Wait. Isaiah.
Hold on a second. I lost my cursor here. Yeah, 54 verse 1
says, "Sing, O barren one, you who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. For the children of the deserted one are more than the children of the married one," said Yahweh.
Okay. Isaiah 54 verse 1. It says, "Shout for joy. Shout for joy. Sing, O barren." Right? Let's look at this over here. It says, the scriptures version says, "Sing, O barren." This word here, Ranan, is to creak or emit a stridulous sound. That's a word right there. Stridulous. Stridulous. What in the world does that mean?
You should have got a dictionary in there too.
Hmm?
I think you're trying to use a dictionary in e-sword.
Oh yeah, definitely is. Stridulous, making a small harsh sound or a creaking sound,
That don't even sound
like a
nice
squealing
sound.
kind of a thing, right?
Screeching.
I think about like when the kids are having a good time and they're just like making loud sounds.
Mm-hmm. Or when people be like, "Lee, lee, 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 lee." Yeah. It's like a screeching. It's a harsh sound, right? Let's go back to this here. It's a shout, usually for joy, aloud, joy, cry out, joyful, rejoice, shout, loud, triumph, right? And so, but it's saying this, it's saying, sing, O barren one. Who did not bear. So the person who is barren is saying that they should be shouting for joy. The one who didn't break forth, who didn't bear. It says break forth into singing and cry aloud. Let's see here. So it's supposed to be doing this stridulous singing, cry aloud. Let's see, oh, barren, break forth into singing, cry aloud. So all to glean, be cheerful, sound clear. Various expressions, cry aloud, rejoice, right? All of these cheerful, loud noises of praise unto the Most High, even though they're having all of these bad situations befall them. Specifically here, barrenness, which to a woman, in the context, is basically the worst situation that she could be facing. So in the midst of your worst possible situation that you could possibly be facing, sing aloud unto the Most High. Even though you never bore a child, even though you never travailed, even though you are desolate. It says, for the sons of the desolate one will be more numerous than the sons of the married woman. It's interesting when we see this kind of comparison between the desolate one, the deserted one, and the one that's married woman, right? This married woman, you think about, oh, she's supposed to have all kinds of kids. But this one that's deserted, she's not supposed to have any. So the one that isn't supposed to have any is going to be more than the one that's supposed to have a whole bunch. But again, before this is becomes apparent or visible or even reality, the verse is saying, sing, shout, cry aloud about it. And so when we think about what we saw with Sarai and Avram, for that matter, when they're looking at their situation, when they're looking at the fact that they basically are the deserted one, and they're thinking about what could be that wasn't, they, instead of turning towards the Most High and praising the Most High for what he said that he was going to do, they stepped into action from a physical standpoint, and the desired result that they were seeking never happens. Because even though a child was born, this child had nothing to do with what the Most High had said from before.
But did he have a purpose?
What?
Did he have a purpose? You know, people got purposes. It seemed like if y'all didn't want Ishmael to be born, you didn't have to let it happen.
Well, we know that the Most High is the giver of life, but we're talking about a specific purpose. The specific purpose that they was even trying to bring about was the promise that was given to Avram. And so Ishmael may in fact have a purpose. However, the purpose that Avram and Sarai was trying to meet, he's not included in that purpose. And so from that perspective, from that point of view, he don't have a purpose because he wasn't the promised one. Does he have a purpose? Oh, of course he does. But the thing that they were trying to achieve by, producing him, it didn't have anything to do with the Most High's purpose. So yes, he had the Most High. He's the controller of all things. He knows that he's going to need to have this adversarial group that's going to come along.
Donkey of a man.
All of that. He knows that that's necessary. But what I'm saying is that according to the promise that they were trying to fulfill, he don't serve any purpose in that. And so the fact that Avram, Sarai, was looking at their situation, and instead of, singing praises to the Most High for what he even said he was going to do, without seeing any results, instead of continuing to trust in the Most High and exhibiting patience, to wait on the will of the Most High to be manifest, they took, actions. They took things into their own hands, and they'll suffer the consequences as a result of it. But when we look at Isaiah 54:1, between that and this, it helps us to understand that we have to be able to not look at what we're able to see, but to look and trust in what the Most High said. We have to be able to look at what the Most High said and allow for our praise and our joy to be based on what he said he was going to do, more so than what we're able to see right now with our eyes. Because this person here that's singing and crying aloud isn't even supposed to have children. They're desolate, but they're going to have more children than the one who's supposed to have children, the married woman. Right? Let's see. Read 2 and 3.
2 and 3 of Isaiah 54.
Yeah.
Enlarge the place of your tent and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Spare not. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes, for you shall break forth to the right and to the left, and your seed inherit the nations and make the deserted cities inhabited.
Okay, very good. So again, we see over here what's going on with, when we look at these verses over here, you have this preparation for what's to come. right? You have a tent that's just big enough for yourself. But he's saying enlarge the place of your tent and let your curtain stretch because I'm about to fill it. Lengthen the cords and strengthen your stakes because I'm about to bust that tent, bust the seams out of that tent. Right? He didn't say don't get no people to put in the tent. He said enlarge the place of your tent. He said to stretch out the cords for your dwellings. This is all about getting ready for what the Most High said he's going to do. Just because you can't physically see the total manifestation of what he said he was going to do, you got to still act like it's about to happen and get ready for it. Because it said you shall break forth. You will break forth. Not you did. Right? So we have to be able to look at the things that the Most High has said that he's going to do and prepare for what he said he's going to do. Not for what he already did, but what he's getting ready to do. Right? Getting ready for what he said that he's going to do. Not what he already did. Right? And we can learn this lesson from looking at Avram, and now they're trying to make, if we compared Isaiah 54 and Bereshit 16, if we compare the two, they're getting people to put in the tent. Right? They're filling up the tent instead of getting the tent ready for more people to be in the tent. The Most High said that the tent's going to be filled. And so instead of filling the tent, they were supposed to be enlarging the tent so that when the occupants of the tent got there was a place for them to be at. And so again, we have to be able to look at what it is that the Most High is doing from a spiritual perspective and not trying to understand it from a physical perspective. Because again, when we look at what happened with Sarai and Avram, it definitely was a mistake, right, on their behalf, because they were in the flesh, right? They were operating in carnality. Let's see here. Spiritually speaking, Yeshayahu 54, 1-3 reminds me of the conversation between Nicodemus and Yehoshua in John chapter 3 about being born again. Well, I mean, to that extent, when you think about Nicodemus speaking to Yeshua, what the way Nicodemus was thinking about it was from a physical standpoint. Yeshua's talking spiritually. Nicodemus is like, what am I supposed to do? Get back up inside of my mom's womb? A grown man supposed to come out of a woman? Am I supposed to get back in there and come back out? Like, because he's not thinking about it from a spiritual standpoint. And so again, we can't look at the things that we're able to physically see, and then by that time it's too late.
Yep.
Right? He said, and sing right now. You don't got time to wait to sing when you have a reason to sing. You sing because the Most High already said what he was going to do, and be happy for that.
Mm-hmm.
He already said what he was going to do. That means it's going to be done. You sing and cry aloud for that. By the time the things happen, you should have been done already sung all that you could sing before it even happened. All right, keep on going. Read down. Read. Let's see here. Read verse 4.
Do not fear, for you shall not be put to shame, nor hurt. You shall not be humiliated. For the shame of your youth you shall forget, and not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore.
He said all of these things that give you a reason to be connected to shame and humiliation are going to be eradicated. Forget those things. All those things that used to define you, the things that defined you in your youth, that bring shame to you as a person, right? He said, you're going to forget those things, and you're going to forget all the things that go along with it, the reproach, the shame, the widowhood. He said the same thing that Paul said whenever he said, therefore, if any man be a Messiah, he's a new creature, a new creature. The old things are passed away and all things become new. But the only way that this is true, can be true in your life, is it's having a spiritual understanding of it, right? Because you really are just the same old person. Like when I look at you from a physical standpoint, when you go down in the water and you come back up, whatever dirt was on you is still going to be on you when you get back out of the water. It don't physically wash you, right? It's a spiritual thing, right? And so just like when we think about what Paul would have been talking about in terms of being in Messiah, is talking about the way in which the Most High looks at you, right? Your connection to the Almighty from a spiritual standpoint. And so, looking at Isaiah 54, when we think about the idea of, not having fear and not being ashamed and not feeling humiliation and hurt about whatever it is that you've been through, going through, we have to be able to trust in the Most High in our whatever our situations are moving forward, to know that those things that you've experienced aren't the things that define you. You're defined by your connection to Messiah, your connection to the Most High. Read 5 through 7 over here.
5 through 7.
Isaiah 54.
Says, for your maker is your husband. Yahweh of hosts is his name. And the set apart one of Israel is your redeemer. He is called the Elohim of all the earth. For Yahweh has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a wife of youth when you were refused, declares your Elohim. For a little while I have forsaken you, but with great compassion I shall gather you.
Yeah. And so again, we see over here, when we look at all this together in terms of the, singing, crying aloud unto the Most High, even though you're not in a situation physically to do so, even though your current situation don't call for you to do so, do it anyway. Even though there ain't even that many people in your tent. He said, enlarge that place and lengthen the cords and strengthen your stakes, because the thing that the Most High said that he's going to do, he's still going to do it. So you have to prepare and get yourself ready for it. He said that he's going to be with you when you go out here and do whatever it is that he said for you to be doing, and don't allow the things that formerly defined you to continue to be the things that define you. Now you are defined by your relationship to the Master, Messiah, Yeshua, and he is the one who has bought you. He's your redeemer, the Elohim of all the earth, the creator and sustainer of all things, is the one who is your possessor.
That's a word that people don't like.
You're cracking me up. Is that what that word is right there?
Yeah, well, probably.
Oh my goodness. Let me click off of that real quick. For thy maker is Baal. Baali. He is your master. The Most High, Yahweh of hosts is his name. And so the reason why we're able to cry aloud and sing unto the Most High in the face of whatever it is that we're facing, you know, when the Most High says that we're going to have this and we're going to have that, but we don't have it yet, but he said we're going to have it. The reason why we able to cry out to him and sing unto him ahead of time is because of the fact that he is the Elohim of all the earth. And we are on his side. And so we have to be able to move in along these lines. You know, when we think about Sarai and Avram, you know, they're in the growth process as we're looking at them, right? As they're Sarai and Avram, before they become even the total manifestations of themselves, right? And so, you know, they're supposed to make mistakes, right? But we're supposed to be able to look to them in their immaturity and gain maturity from, you know, the mistakes that they've made. We're supposed to be able to look to what they've done and move in a different direction, because we're able to see the growth in them. And so again, we look at this over here in Isaiah 54, you know, this bears witness with, you know, what we're saying over here in regards to the way in which we should be moving over here. If you are in a place where you understand that the Most High has made a particular declaration in your life, if he said it, he's going to do it. I'm just going to say he's probably not going to do it in the time that you think that he's going to do it. The timing is probably going to be off from what you think and when it is manifest. But we have to behave in a way that is outside of him actually doing the thing. All right, let's see here. Let's drop down. Let's drop down. We'll end with this. Let's drop down to start reading at verse 11.
Oh, you afflicted one, tossed with storm and not comforted. See, I am setting your stones in antimony, and shall lay your foundations with sapphires, and shall make your battlements of rubies, your gates of crystal, and all your walls of precious stones. and all your children taught by Yahweh, and the peace of your children great. In righteousness you shall be established, far from oppression, for you shall not fear, and far from ruin, for it does not come near you.
All right, let's stop right there. So, again, when we think about the promises that the Most High gives to His people, oftentimes, we are forced to understand patience. We're forced to have to understand the idea of continuing to trust in the Most High, in His Word, without necessarily experiencing the results, at the same time. This is it's an important lesson, but it's definitely a necessary lesson, because our hastiness can oftentimes take us to places where the Most High never wanted for us to be at in the first place. Not to say that He won't get us through the different things that we bring about. However, you're making your situation harder now. And so, if you drive 15 minutes out of the way, you don't set yourself back a half an hour. Because you got to you already lost 15 minutes, but then you got to come back 15 minutes again to get back on track. And so the issues that you create, the problems is going to cause you double the problem. And so we have to learn to be able to trust in the Most High and trust in His Word, and not necessarily look at what is happening right now, and gauging how we move based on what we're physically able to see. Because oftentimes, the Most High is going to be making moves for you that you can't see, bringing all the things together. And so we have to be about the mind of preparing for the thing that the Most High has declared in our life. Just get ready. Just do the things. Just get ready for all the things that He said He's going to do in your situation, so that when it happens, you're already ready. Because if you wait for the results, it's going to be too late. You're going to be behind, right? And so we have to be able to move and operate according to the Spirit and not according to the flesh. When we think about the idea of patience, it's a fruit of the Spirit. We're able to patiently wait with positive anticipation because of the power of the Ruach HaKodesh on the inside of us. And not only it being on the inside of us, but us moving according to the Spirit. And so the Most High has something for each and every one of us to be doing. And once He's made this thing known to you, we can't be out here trying to make that thing come to pass. But what we can do is get ready to receive the blessing that He has for us. Not trying to go around and make the blessing, bless ourselves necessarily, but be ready to receive it. If He said, I'm going to drop this 100-pound thing in your lap, then you better fortify your chair before that thing get here, or else your chair gonna break. Right? You better build your muscles up so that you're able to carry the 100-pound thing that he's about to drop on you. Right? And so the things that we've looked at in terms of Sarai, Hagar, Avram, even over into Isaiah 54 is about trusting in the Most High's word and what He said, and not allowing for our circumstances and situations that we're going through to be the determining factors, that we use to move, but only the word of the Most High. And so we have to learn to live according to the word of the Most High, and not what we're able to see, because oftentimes our vision is is skewed, right?
The situation.
Yeah. All right, so let us. Yes, patience is in fact key. Yeah. All right, so do we have any last questions, comments before we are done with what we have to talk about today? All right, so that being said, I want to thank everyone for all of your comments in the comment section. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next week to continue with our look at Bereshit and the life and times of Avram. I want to wish everyone a blessed Shabbat. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. I guess we don't have much of it left in this winterish season that we're in. But y'all bless the rest of your day, and you have a blessed week. And y'all willing, we'll be back on next week to do it all over again. Oh, yeah. All right. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.